Are we looking at the beginning of a process that leads to a direct U.S. military intervention in the northwest frontier provinces?
I hope not, but there are many influential sources, neoconservatives in Washington, some Pentagon sources that have been calling this. The same thing happened during Vietnam. When they couldn't win the war in Vietnam, they wanted to invade Cambodia. That would have solved their problem. Pakistan is a country of 165 million people with armed forces of 575,000 tough soldiers. It's not a country to be invaded lightly. And I must say, the U.S. has been attacking into Pakistan's tribal territory for well over a year now. There have just been discrete attacks. Now there are calls for major military intervention. In my view, would be a disaster.
Pakistani public opinion seems to be split. Almost half the country finds bin Laden as a popular figure. I think it's 13% actually are supporting Musharraf, but the other half of the country seems to be pro-Bhutto. This is quite a profound split between Bhutto and bin Laden.
It is. No doubt bin Laden is probably the most popular man in the whole country. There has been support for Bhutto as a alternative to Musharraf. A lot of Pakistanis want restoration of semi-democracy, because look, there was not true democracy before, but at least as close as they can get to it. But if Bhutto is seen as supporting Musharraf, that 65 or 63% who in a poll who said they're supporting her, that figure is going to evaporate very quickly.
Is the army, do you think, solidly behind Musharraf?
I don't think so. Certainly the senior ranks of the Army, what they call the corps commanders, lieutenant generals who command major formations, and perhaps division generals, major generals, are supporting Musharraf because they've been vetted in advance by not only Musharraf but by Washington as well. And Washington has put in a whole new command structure in Pakistan.
If the army stays firm, if the ISI stays firmly behind Musharraf, then we're not likely to see fundamental change in the next few months. Am I right about that?
You are right, but we don't know what's going on deep inside the Pakistani armed forces. My sources tell me that there are fissures, that there is great unhappiness with Musharraf, particularly in the mid-ranks of the military, because Musharraf is perceived not only by the military but most Pakistanis as having become an agent of the United States and is using Pakistan's army to fight his own people at Washington's behest and being paid by Washington as mercenaries to fight tribesmen and other dissidents in Pakistan. So the soldiers are unhappy. It's not a moment to make them proud.
Are these soldiers more likely to be sympathizers with those Pakistanis that like an Osama bin Laden or those that like a Bhutto?
Bhutto is not liked in the army at all by anyone. Bin Laden certainly has supporters, but there are also nationalist Pakistani officers who are saying, and they've told me, our country's been sold out. Musharraf is another Anwar Sadat. He's become a puppet of the Americans. He's forcing us to do things that go against the interests of our own country.
It's quite popular in news organizations in North America right now to give this story a feeling of tremendous urgency, to talk about the Pakistani nuclear bomb and the possibility of that falling into more militant hands. Is that a real threat that people should be concerned about?
Not at the moment, because the nuclear weapons are kept under the control of the intelligence agency, ISI, and elite army units. In fact, Benazir Bhutto told me when she was prime minister the last time, she wanted to go and see the bomb. She wanted to see the nuclear reactor where this was made, and the army wouldn't let her visit it. So the army is firmly in control, and that will continue in spite of all this. But the danger is, if the army should split sometime down the line, then the question will raise, well, who's going to get control of the nuclear weapons?
Now, you've been in direct touch with Bhutto. What is she saying to you?
So up until, I haven't been in touch with her since this crisis, since the military putsch.
So you were in touch with her last week?
Yes, that's right. And she is determined to go ahead with her alliance with Musharraf, but she told me that she had not worked out the details as of last week when she went to Dubai, and she's looking for a new strategy for her party and her own political movement, and she's concerned that if momentum drops down, that the situation becomes stagnant.
And how serious is this threat of the increased militancy of the Taliban, the possibility of them moving closer to the bigger cities?
You know, what we call Islamic terrorism, or the so-called faux war on terror, that's used as a justification by right-wingers everywhere to undermine democratic systems. The main impetus behind Islamic militancy is against dictatorial governments in the Muslim world. They're not fighting against the West, they're fighting against Western-imposed governments in their areas. Here, Pakistan is now a perfect example of this. It joins Egypt and Algeria, Saudi Arabia, etc., of dictators who are hated by their own people. They see the West supports them. And so what this Islamic militancy is going to grow, and what Musharraf has done will pour fuel onto the fire and cause much more violence in Pakistan.